Next, I want to talk about inflation. Inflation is extremely hard and an abstract concept to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, when we talk about inflation, we have to talk about the Consumer Price Index. What is the Consumer Price Index? The CPI is a monthly number that reflects the changes in the prices for goods and services. You can do monthly for sure in real life. This is just math class. This isn't real life. We're not really analysts. So for our purposes, we're just going to use yearly. We're just going to look at it yearly, not monthly. But you can get down to the month if you need to. It can be used to make predictions for the future or the past prices since it describes the prices were at that time. We will refer to section 4 of our textbook for CPI values during the homework. In my textbook, it was page 41. It's going to be roughly that same page for your textbook. You might add or subtract a page there. It might be 40, 42. It's going to be somewhere around there. You're going to see this table. I went ahead and put it in my slides so we can all have the same table that we're looking at. This is the table I'm going to refer to within this lecture, and this is the table of the CPI values. On the left-hand side, you see the year, which is only going from 1977 to 2017, and then the annual. Well, what is this annual? Annual means year, of course, but what does that number mean? This means roughly, it's kind of like a price, but it's not a price, okay? So the CPI doesn't have any units, but it's a bit like the money. And as inflation works, the value of the dollar goes down, and so the cost of particular items goes up, right? So the cost of food has gone up, the cost of movie tickets has gone up, the cost of college has gone up, right? And that all being said, the value of the dollar in turn uh, goes down because that is a proportional, um, they're inverse proportional to one another. So again, let's look at some examples and clear this up. So first example, I want to look at hamburger costs. If a hamburger cost 38 cents in 1979, what would be the equivalent price in 2017 if it followed inflation perfectly? So the CPI values for 2017 was 245.12 and 72.6 for 1979. Let's set up a proportion and try to solve the price of that hamburger if it followed perfectly. So on the left-hand side, I put the prices. So X is going to stand for the price in 2017. On the bottom there, it's 38 cents. That is for 1979. On the right-hand side, you see the CPI values on top. Again, I have 2017. On bottom, I have 1979. Now I can just multiply both sides by 38 cents, and I can solve for that price of that hamburger, and I found $1.28. So that means that if hamburgers followed inflation perfectly, then the hamburger in 2017 would be roughly $1.28. Is that an accurate description of the cost of hamburgers in 2017? I would say it depends. It depends on what is your definition of a hamburger, right? If you go to McDonald's dollar menu, I believe they did have a hamburger or a cheeseburger for $1. And I guess, in Bloomington that would have been what, a dollar 08, roughly $1.08. So yeah, I mean, I would say it would have been close. It would have been close if you're looking at the dollar menu. If you're looking at, say, a quarter pounder, it's going to be more, right? But a quarter pounder, of course, is going to be much more food than, say, a hamburger in 1979, right? So food portions have gone up, prices have gone up, so that makes everything more complicated. But I would say on the dollar menu, if that was roughly equivalent to the same size, I would say the hamburgers have roughly followed suit, give or take. Let's look at another example. So what is the price of tuition in the year 2010 if the price was $1,865 in 1995, and then with the given CPI values of 218.056 for 2010 and 152.4 for the year 1995. So let's set this proportion up and see if we can't solve if tuition for college followed exactly with inflation. So on the left-hand side, you can see I have my prices. I have my unknown price for 2010 as X. On the bottom, you can see I have the price for tuition in 1995. On the right-hand side is the CPI values with 2010 on top and 1995 on bottom. I can multiply both sides by 1,865 to find this tuition. I found $2,668.47 was the price of tuition in 2010 if it followed perfectly with inflation. Would you agree? Would you disagree? Do you think that college cost $2,000, between $2,000 and $3,000 in 2010? Well, I can tell you it didn't. Of course, college has inflated in cost much, much, much more rapidly than the inflation of the dollar. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is the demand for it is much, or at least in 2010, the demand was extremely high versus the supply. So in 2010, it was often that you would sit in a classroom, there would be a teacher in front of you, that kind of thing. And in that kind of setting, there's only so many seats, there's only so many physical locations. Well, in 2021, things have certainly changed. Things are going online. Limited seats are not so much. Class sizes can go up. Availability can go up. And yeah, it's not completely unexpected that you will have much larger class sizes, but it will be, the knowledge will be given to you in a different way. Long-winded way of saying that the supply is growing, the demand is about the same, and so I believe that the tuition cost for college we will see in the next 10 years actually go down, and for these reasons. Okay, tangent put aside. Find the equivalent price of a calculator in 1986 if you paid $15.89 in the year 2012. We're given the CPI values of 229.594 for the year 2012 and 109.6 for the year 1986. We can set up our proportions just like before. On the left-hand side, I have the unknown value of the 1986 calculator. On the bottom, I have the 2012 price. And then on the right-hand side, on the top, is the CPI value for 1986. On the bottom right-hand side, we have it for 2012. Now, we just need to solve for x, and we should be able to find our value. I'll multiply both sides by $15.89. When I do so, I find $7.59. Now, do I think that calculators, the price of calculators, have followed inflation? I do not. Technology, for the most part, kind of works on its own system. It doesn't really work with inflation in that way. So the price of a calculator in 1986 would be much, much more. I would say probably on the order of maybe, order of 10, perhaps. So I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking that a calculator in 1986 for the same, with the same functions and everything in 2012, I would gauge that it would be a couple $100 versus almost $8. That's not going to happen. So technology is one of those things where it kind of goes with its own trajectory. It doesn't follow the US dollar because technology is kind of a newer thing, and it kind of works on its own curve. So it's kind of funny to think about, but yeah, so this calculator in reality would be worth much more in 19